Why do we work hard to solve small problems? Why do we reinvent ourselves and our clients over and over? And why are we giving away marketing strategy for free? It's time to bring home bigger paychecks. It's time to create the lifestyle we deserve and to make a greater impact. This is the Fractional CMO Show, and I'm Casey Stanton. Join me as we explore this growing industry and learn to solve bigger problems. Hey, it's Casey, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk to you about a specific word of virtue, something that comes from Buddhism that I think is incredibly important to embody, to understand, and to even reprogram yourself to consider on a regular basis. Now you're thinking, Casey, what is it like a Buddhist value or virtue have to do with being a fractional CMO? And I think, I'm not a practicing Buddhist, though I think the Buddhists, man, they got a lot right. Like the way that they've documented so many different things in different ways, I just think it's, there's just a lot of wisdom there. And there's one word that kind of comes up for me. It's part of the four immeasurables or the four infinite minds in Buddhism. And it's something that will get you through the low lows. And what's a low low that you'll experience as a fractional CMO? I can give you a couple examples of what I've seen. First of all, for myself, and then secondly, what I've seen from folks who are in the CMOx accelerator. Because low lows happen. Here's a low that you can experience as a fractional CMO. Mine. Built a book of business. Things were great. Lost almost everything overnight. Felt like overnight. Over the course of 2 weeks, lost almost all my income. Went from 20-some thousand to a couple $1,000 in the course of 2 weeks. Feeling like I was just grooving, I was doing it, I had figured it out, I was just feeling confident, and then literally losing it all. One bad phone call after another just hit me, people pulling out. Scary, super low. I didn't have the financial runway either. I just finished a big trip. We had just moved to Philadelphia. We got a rental that we were staying in, an Airbnb, while we looked for a new house. And then I had to pull together an obscene amount of money to move into this rental that we were going to stay in, right? We were at an Airbnb looking for an apartment or a townhouse. And we had to pull together, a lot. First month, last month, second to last month, security deposit, pet fee, all of that in cash before we could move in. It was tough. And I just lost all business that I had just before that event. We talk about low lows. It is an absolute low low in my life. Also incredibly grateful for the opportunity to go through that with my wife. She and I were newlyweds, and we had to figure it out. It was definitely a make it or break it. There's this idea, too, that in relationships, you go through a challenge phase. Most folks in relationships haven't gone through the challenge phase. Do you work well together in challenge? Can you get through it together? Or do you become remorseful or, whatever, and not get through it? So challenge is great, okay? So that was a super low for me when I lost just about everything. I was selling everything. Selling kind of all that I had just to be able to move into that place. Rough. And it was like a blink of the eye. Just moments ago, I was living that life. And then there's high highs. I remember the first month I had brought in $46,500 as a fractional CMO. And after expenses, I was on track to make $500,000 that year. I remember that feeling and how short the time was between, the $250,000 that I was bringing in, then lost it all, then up to $500,000. And then the high highs that I felt when I started taking Fridays as half days. Just working half day Fridays. Just what that feels like, right? High, feels great. To working with a client, doing my best and not delivering well enough, and then just feeling like garbage because I just didn't have a process to follow. I didn't know how to deliver value. Every time I got on the call with him, I was nervous and anxious and trying to reinvent what we were doing. And then them finally pulling the plug on the engagement. Ugh, what a crushing feeling of defeat, feeling like an imposter. It's just awful. To high highs. Right? Taking my family on an incredible vacation that was, here's the line. where you're well catered to, right? Like that was a level of luxury I'd never experienced before. I'd never really gone on a proper vacation, and we went on a real vacation, like the real deal, like spent a lot of money. Had an incredible time, made great memories with our son before our daughter was born. Just really a special time. I mean, think back on that. I have photographs that I took while I was there. It's just such a high for me. Just thinking about like we were in the Bahamas and finding some local fruit there that I'd never had before. And my wife and I picking it up. You know, we flew our nanny in to watch our kid while we got to go explore the city. And then we came back and we brought back all this fresh fruit. One was a custard apple, and another one was like a lychee style kind of sized fruit. That name escapes me right now. But just like having my son enjoy that and like crack it with his teeth and then like eat the fruit and not the pit, and then swimming in these beautiful pools, and there was like no one around. And I mean, it was just an incredible high, right? Like just like highs and lows, you're going to experience them as a fractional CMO. If you've never been, quote unquote, on your own and you've only been employed full time, then, there's a risk that you're shouldering as a fractional CMO. What's that risk? That risk is the risk of, not having enough clients, or the clients ending the contract, or, whatever. Oftentimes we tend to underappreciate the risk that we have as full-time employees, because that risk is absolutely there and significant. Recently, there was a company, I won't share any details, but I saw that they went under, and they went under due to bad leadership from the CEO. And a lot of people woke up and on their way to work got a Slack message that said, "Don't come in. The company shut down." People are owed pay, they're owed vacation, they're owed all sorts of, stuff. And then the customers who bought the service from the business aren't getting that delivered. And it's just a whole kerfuffle, right? No one wants to be part of that. And I don't think any employee that worked there ever thought that could happen. So as you become a fractional CMO, as you go off on your own, you shoulder the risk. Maybe you've already been shouldering the risk, right, at some level. But more than that, you're more aware of the risk. So maybe there's more risk, maybe there's less. If you're a full-time employee and, the CEO decides to shut everything down, or they sell the business and the new owners fire everybody, or they downsize your department, or, there's just layoffs, whatever happens, you have limited control. As a fractional CMO, you do have more control and you have more advantage. You could see it coming. You know that you have a contract that has a renewal term. You know that the renewal's coming up and you're not feeling great about it. And you could, put your butt into gear and go prospect and win some new business. That's all possible stuff. So I just bring up these ideas just to kind of like share that you're going to have high highs and low lows. And when you go off on your own, you're going to increase your vantage on risk and also your potential for risk. And what you get with that is an enormous reward, if you do it right. The reward certainly outpaces the risk. It's really hard to get a job where you're making $500,000 a year, working 20 or 30 hours a week. I'm not saying it's impossible. Plenty of people do it. But like, where I came from with a degree I have, environmental policy, right? Like those jobs aren't available to me. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the finance side of stuff, CEOs, like people are getting paid well, VPs, if you're in the FANG or whatever they're calling the amalgamation of like Facebook, which is now Meta, and Apple and Amazon and Netflix and those types of companies. If you work for one of those companies and you're like an L7 whatever, yeah, you can make really great money. Oftentimes those come with a lot of stress. You're always on, you're doing a lot of travel. You're living in a high cost of living city. So as a fractional CMO, it really is like your one opportunity to make that high income and live wherever you want and serve great companies and really fill that bucket for you on like service, helping people, helping great companies, making a lot of money, and then, being able to go on vacations and enjoy them and like not be on your phone and be present with your family and have hobbies and all that stuff. So all these things can happen, right? And then you can just get like kicked in the face something you didn't see coming, like the interest rate rising, and maybe that significantly affects your client. And maybe your client's fine at the interest rate right now, but if the Fed increases the interest rate, maybe your client has to fire you and everybody else, or they have to do a major layoff. Right? These things can happen kind of in a moment's notice. So what do you do? And let's go back to the theme of what this episode's about. The Buddhists have this thing, and I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about it, okay? Because I don't. But they call it the four immeasurables. And I think of these as like four virtues that we can take each of them and foster. And the first one is metta, or loving kindness or benevolence. Loving kindness is, I think, just like wonderful. Right? Like loving kindness. Next one is compassion. Right? You think of these two qualities, you're like, yeah, loving kindness, compassion, absolutely. I can see that those are important things to kind of foster in myself. I think to me, those are the easy ones to see the value of. The next one is empathetic joy. I really like that. I've also heard it called sympathetic joy. It's the idea of taking joy in the good fortune of others. It's a good one, right? See someone else, something great happen to them, and you feel a deep sense of joy for them. That's a cool thing to foster, right? Maybe someone wins a client, like you're inside the CMOx accelerator, and someone else, wins a client. We just had a member, she just shared that she just won her second big client. It's awesome. She did it fast. I don't know how long she's been in. A month, maybe a month and a half. She won her second big client. She's billing a really healthy 5 figures now. It's awesome. And maybe someone hears that and they say, oof, I didn't get that this week. Or I'm 2 months in and I haven't sold 2 clients, right? Empathetic joy is saying, I'm joyful for you, like I'm happy for you, right? But the one that I think is the virtue to focus on as a fractional CMO, owning your own business, having highs and lows that will absolutely come, just like the yin yang says, half the time it's darkness, half the time it's lightness. But in the darkness, there's light, and in the light, there's darkness. Right? If you have that worldview that 50% of the time it'll be great and 50% of the time it won't be great, and in the not great, there is great, and in the great, there is not great, right? There's a shadow side to it all. The quality that you can embody is equanimity. I just think it's like such a powerful idea. Equanimity. It's this idea of being equanimous, of being just kind of like, things are great. Like, you're cool. Like you're level-headed. Things are bad. You're cool. You're level-headed. You just closed the biggest client of your life. Yeah, like celebrate a bit, but like kind of return back to that state of just like being chill, like bring it back down to that base level. Things are bad. Okay, they'll pass. Bring it back to that base level. Operate on that level where you're not emotionally jumping up and down throughout the ups and downs of the business. Because it's with a, calm mind, where you have that spaciousness, where you're able to cultivate a sense of kind of understanding of your client and their business and what needs to happen. That's where you're going to be the most creative. If you're just like blown out on caffeine and uppers and getting high from the business and the sale and serving the client and that's cool, but that can't last forever. And if you tie your sense of meaning to that feeling, you're going to have some bad days. And on the flip side, when you have those bad days, if you only wish they were better days, there's lessons there that you're not picking up, that you're not learning. On a call that we actually hosted today, inside the CMOx accelerator, could have brought up this idea, and Raphael, who's part of our team inside the community, he's just incredible. Raph talked through kind of this mental exercise of thinking through like, what's all the bad stuff that could happen if this is true? And what's all the good stuff that can happen if this is true? And kind of like being comfortable with both outcomes no matter what. If you lose the client, or if you have a proposal out and then the client says no, what's going to happen to you? Can you live with that? And if they say yes, what's going to happen? Can you live with that? And it's this idea of like living in the reality of reality. I like this idea of, there's the way things are, and like the way I want things to be, and maybe the way I think things should be. And like, where are you living in that stuff? The way that things are, you're saying, hey, everything makes sense. I prospected this company. I followed the CMOx sales process. They're qualified to work with me. I think I'd like to help them. They have the budget. We're moving forward to a stage, proposal stage. And maybe it'll close, maybe it won't. I'm going to fight like hell to make it close, but maybe it won't. And I'm fine with that because I know I'm just going to turn around and keep doing what I'm doing. Hell, I'm not even going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm not even going to stop prospecting. I'm just going to keep going. And that's how you're successful. Anyone who's ever been successful has kept going. Right? They haven't had the bad days slow them down. They haven't, there's plenty of people who made it big, made a lot of money, whatever, and then just kind of blew it. Because they lived in that high state and then they found themselves back at zero and they couldn't get lucky again. So I think being a fractional CMO, being off on your own, owning your own business, being solely responsible, and maybe you're like me, you're the primary earner in your family. A lot of our members are the primary earners in their families. They have a sense of responsibility that it's just different. I'm not villainizing anyone who's a full-time employee. I think that full-time employees are like, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people to be a full-time employee. And it makes sense for me to not, and maybe for you not. Maybe it makes sense for you to be an entrepreneur, go off on your own, and be a fractional CMO where you're serving these companies. And you're building yourself into this position that's needed, right? Where companies are looking. I'm recording this here in early July, and we're seeing folks sell fractional CMO clients. Every week, we're seeing folks sell new clients. If you live in the world where people aren't buying right now, that's just like not empowering. I don't know why you believe that. People are buying right now. People want to hire a fractional CMO. If you're experiencing maybe some frustration or doubt, keep going. If you had a really great month and your foot's off the gas pedal, remember the risk that you're exposed to here. Keep going. Keep building. Don't build because you're scared. Build because you're building, right? Just continue to build and keep the sense of equanimity. Just like relax your forehead, your brow, right? Unclench your jaw. Like move with that energy. It gets picked up by your clients. It's the gripping energy where you hold tight to these outcomes and things have to be a certain way or else. Or it just makes things harder. So just let it go. Let it go. Work ardently, work intelligently, surround yourself with other people who are doing it, have a proven process to serve your clients. But don't live in a world where you have to force, right? It's kind of like this passive-active approach. You're actively working. You're doing everything you know to do. You're doing it as well as you can. You're doing it with the right intention. Through that intention, you derive your confidence. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You keep going. All right? So that's it. That's it for like this episode. Keep going and don't think that you will arrive. You're never going to be there. The moment doesn't last for long. First client, first $500,000 month. All those things are great. They're worthy of celebration. You should absolutely have a history of celebrations in your life where you've set out to do something hard, you've done it, and you've celebrated yourself in your tenacity. Absolutely. And it is not the accomplishment of outcomes like where your value lies. It's your intention in your effort. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. That's all, right? So don't hold yourself that you'll only be successful if you close this next deal. No, you're going to be successful if you keep working diligently, going after clients. You'll win them. You'll be able to serve them. Your confidence will only grow. You'll make more money. You'll serve more clients. Your income will grow. It's just a flywheel. All right. With that, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Thank you for joining us for today's show.
For more information and episodes, visit our site at fractionalcmoshow.com. Go ahead and punch that like and subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. It means a lot, at least to my mom.